Hi everyone. Previous class we talked about fish cookery. Today we are going to discuss about meat cookery. In the meat we have classifications: white meat, red meat, and brown meat. Three types of meats will be there. The red meat contains very high blood cells. White meat, lean meat doesn't have any blood cells. The brown meat contains the medium blood cells. The colors and blood component, the structure of meats are different between these three classifications. Today we are going to discuss meat and meat cookery. Meat refers to the edible flesh of animals. And is animal flesh that is eaten as a food? Yes. So the edible animals, there are some of wild animals, some the farms, some animals can be good for a nutritional purpose, and those meats will be added into a cookery for making different types of dishes. So the flesh meat will be taken as a one of your nutritional component food. what we are what we eat are the muscle of animals, muscles, so the body muscles, what do you say that? So meat and poultry are excellent nutrient sources of protein, building the repairs of body tissues, makes you feel fuller longer. Okay, so meat and poultry the excellent sources of nutrition, that is protein, which is contains in the protein. So that's why the meat is very important to your one of the nutritional component, and it is a one of your the body tissues. Okay, the repair of your body cells, body tissues. Iron, it helps to carry oxygen to the body tissues through blood. Okay, so iron also present in the meat. So iron, what will happen? How it will help? It will help, oxygen supplying to the body. B vitamin, support to the metabolism. Okay, these all are contains in the meat. And composition: meat consists of water 75, protein 19%, uh, intra muscular fat 2.5%, carbohydrates 2.3%. See here, the composition of meat also, the nutrition value, it's a very good. That's why we eat meat. And grades of beef. So there is a classification: meats, red meat, white meat, and brown meat. The red meat always comes under the beef and veal. So how we need to be grade it? So by best choice, the choice, selection good, and standard, and commercial as per the price. So these are the grades how we select the beef. Grades of beef in the US. So in India, we don't eat any beef as per our religion, as per our culture and tradition. We pray the God as a our one of the God is a beef, the cow. So now what in a Western countries, as per we are studying as a hotel management and catering technology, so we have to study rest of all the food also. That is the reason why we are studying beef, calf, and veal and everything. Highest in a quality, higher fat content, and well distribution marbling. Okay, and found in a high-end restaurant menus. And US choice: high quality, lower fat content, and less distributed marbling, and the found in a moderate restaurant and grocery stores. It will present. It will available in a very good restaurants as per the quality of the beef, and in the restaurant also they cook the beef and they serve as a one of the major food and main course to the in USA. In the USA also in the not only the USA, Australia, Asia, and some Europe. All these countries, west apart from the India, there is a lot of countries they eat beef. Even India also they eat beef, but it is not the legalized and acceptable quality, but it is a less juicy and tender due to leaniness. Okay, the meats contains a very juicy and tenderness and very juicy and blood. It contains very good taste. Lowest grade commonly sold at grocery stores. Some of the low category, low grade beefs they will sell in the groceries also. Red and white meat, what's the difference between red and white meat? So red meat will be contains a more fat and more blood cells and red pink in color and very nutrition and the component of protein, these all things. The white meat, lean meat, the blood cells are less and some of the nutritional purpose also it is a very good. So that is a difference between a red meat and white meat. All poultry, fish and seafood and some game meats considered as a white meats and beef, lamb, sheep, goat, all these meats considered as a red meat. So red meat, the color depend on the concentration of myoglobin in a muscle fiber. When myoglobin is exposed to oxygen, reddish color appears. When a myoglobin exposed to the oxygen, the automatically it looks like a red in color. So that means red blood cells will be present in the meats. Red, redness depends on species, animal age, and narrow muscle fibers. Okay, that red, the blood, how it contains, how it color contains, and the redness, and it contains of the species and animal age and narrow muscle fibers. Red meat examples. What are the red meat contains? What are the animals contains the red meat? We'll see now. Cow, beef, adult cattle called as a cow, veal, a baby claves called as a veal, lamb, mutton, hogget. Okay, so cara beef, water buffalo meat also called as a red meat. A sheep in the first year is called as a lamb, and the meat of juvenile sheep older than 1 year is a hogget. The meat of adult sheep is mutton, a term only used for the meat, not the living animal. Okay, so according to their age factors, a baby lamb or sheep or goat, according to the changes of ages, it will the name is given to that. At the same way, beef and veal, calf also contains of the different stages of age groups. So older age called as a beef, younger age called as a veal. This one. White meat. What are the white meat contents? Those are red meats: beef, veal, calf, lamb, sheep, goat. All this called as a your red meat. And what are the white meats we have? White meat may be also referred as a lighter color meat. Okay, the white meat contains a white light colors. It is a blood cells are more in red meats, but in white meats there is no blood cells. The light in color. Blood cells will be there, of course, but the white in color. It is believed that is a white meat is a healthier than the red meat. Why white meat is a healthier than the white meat, red meat? So because the red meat also it is contains a very good protein, iron, and the calcium and fat, lipids, everything. But white meat is better than the red meat because the red meat contains a very high fat and a high cholesterol, and that is the reason the body may be affected with the high cholesterol. That's what the red meat is a. You need to be minimize the in a consumption. White meat can be it is a less blood fat content and less cholesterol. That's why white meat will be better than the red meat. But in western countries, most probably The red meat will be they eat a lot. Examples: pork, poultry, and game, fish, and shellfish. These all are comes under your category of white meat. Meats from the different animals: pork, pig, beef, chowan, goat, venison, deer, lamb less than 1 year, mutton, sheep more than 1 year. These are the meats from animals. Structure of meat, how the structure going to be there in the meat. Lean tissues is a consist of one or more muscle, muscle, and which is made up of many bundles of muscle fibers. Okay, connectivity tissues surround out the fiber and unites the bundle. So all the human being or your animal, it bundles of connectivity of tissues, right? The tissues will be formed as a one bundle that is supplied with the blood. So that's why the blood cells we call it is those are called as a blood cells. Lean tissues also consist of the more muscles, but and made many bundles of fibers. Uh, so collagen arranged in a parallel, do not stretch. Color is a white, distinguished in a hot water. So the collagen of your meat tissues, meat fibers, okay, in a hot water. And elastin, so yellow portion do not tenderize while cooking. Elastin, a kind of a yellow fat which contains yellow, the fibers which contains in the meat, it cannot be tenderized. You cook, it will become harder, but it cannot be tenderized. It cannot be chewable. Fat around between muscle. Okay, your muscle around all your tissues, fibers, it contains the connectivity of your fat. That fat will be useful to get in a lipids as a the nutrition value required to the body. Composition of meat. The water about 75% of muscle tissues, and the shrinkage can be a big problem in cooking meat, which result of losses of weight and lose of profit. Okay, 75% of water in a blood cells or your in the body, even human body or human being also, it contains more than 70% of water. So that while you're cooking, it will shrinkage. The water is going to be evaporate. The water is going to be come out, and your fibers and your tissues will turn into a tenderizing and tough and become a harder. Protein. About 20% of the muscle tissues is a protein. Okay, 20% of your muscle contains a protein. Protein coagulate when it is heated. The protein which is contains in the muscles, when you heat and when you cook, when you grill, when you roast, when you steam or when you stew, so these muscles will get coagulated, and it will turn into a tender. This means firmer and loses moisture. Coagulation is related to doneness. Okay, so the film moisture, of course, the 75% of water, it is all moisture. That moisture is going to be shrinkage, and it's going to be evaporate while you're cooking the meat. 5% of muscle tissues is a fat. Okay, in the tissues, 5% will be the fat. A beef carcass can be much as 30% of fat. So that is the difference. A white meat and a red meat. The beef carcass with the skeleton bones, it contains of 30% of fat in a fibers in a tissues. So 5% in a white meat. So that's why it is a danger while having red meat every day. Juiciness, marbling is a fat deposited within the tissues. Muscle tissues, it deposit the marbling. And juiciness depends on how much marble contains in the meat. Okay, so marbling of your meat, the juices, tenderness, all these tissues, how it is contains in the meat is a depend on your type of meats. Tenderness. So marbling separates the muscles fibers, making them easier to chew. Okay, tenderness. So while you're marbling, while you're separating of your cooking, separating of any doing some applying some heat, so that's what the tenderness, the muscles which are contains with your the body, those muscles are going to be tenderized after evaporating of your moisture. Flavor. So all meats contains a very strong flavors. So, but the strong flavors depends on the marbling, the type of meat. Marbling is a type of meat. How strong flavor it contains. Cuts in a beef carcass. Some cuts of beef. There are two types of cuts. One is a large cuts. Second one is a retail cuts. Wholesale cuts, retail cuts. Wholesale cuts will be large cuts. Retail cuts will be small cuts. Here is a large cuts. The wholesale cuts. Sirloin 7% will come from the animal. Loin 9% will come from the animal. Rib 12% will come in the animal. And chunk 28% will come in the animal. Hip 25% will come in the animal. And flank 5%. The plate 6%. Brisket 5%. And shank 3%. These are the percentage of large cuts come out from the full carcass of animal, beef. These are the sum of retail cuts. So again, from the large cuts, we make the retail cuts to cooking purpose or business purpose, or your the methods of cooking and restaurant sales purpose. Chunk. From the chunk, what are the portions we get? Pot roast, short ribs, top blades steak, mock tender, and ground meat. We get from the chunk. Chunk always the hind, the front part of your animal, behind the neck. Rib, ribeye, roast, and steak, back ribs. Back. These are the retail cuts come from the rib. Rib always be side of the animal. Short line, the short line, T-bone, um, port, porterhouse, and tenderloin steaks comes from the short line. Short line always the center part of the animal of the above the ribs. Sirloin, sirloin steak. Sirloin will come from the all the sirloin steaks. Sirloin steaks contains a fat, a meat, and the flesh, skin. Uh, and that is the rare part of animal. Breast and foreshank. Breast and foreshank below legs. Okay, breast on shank below legs, front legs. Corned beef, cross-cut, shank, brisket, ground beef. So these are the retail cuts come from the breast. And plate. Plate is a come from the rib part, below rib part. That is a good for ground meat, because below the rib part, belly, the belly contains, there is no bones, no skeletons. It is a good for making keema. Flank. Flank steak, skid steak, and steak rolls. So flank also comes from the belly part. The belly part also does not contains any bones. It is a soft meat. With a soft meat, all steaks, skid steaks, and steak rolls and flank steaks, you can make it. Round. From the round is a back hind leg, and tip steak, rum roast, a round steak, and roast. These are the methods and parts we will come. It will come from the hind part of round part of animal. It's a hind part of animal. Beef. Beef is the meat domesticated, mature cattle, usually over 12 months of age. So above the 12 months, we call it is a beef. Below 12 months, we call it is a beef. It is a usually bright cherry red in color with a creamy white fat. So red in color, fat fibers, fat contains the in the meat. Cattle is the collective name for all domesticated oxen. Okay, so cattle is a kind of a collective names. Cattle are classified as a bulls, calves, cows, steers. Okay, steers. These are the red meat of beef animals. Male. Cattle is usually not raised to be eaten. Male intact cattle and young cows are bull prized for their meat, and cows female cattle after the first calving raised principally for milk and calf production. So these are the cattle cannot be used for the preparation of the dishes, but they use other purpose. Veal. Clave under the age online is 8 to 16 weeks. A more delicate flavor, generally more tender. So younger calf, younger veal, a beef called as a veal. It can as a tender meat. It can as a delicate flavor. Variety meats and organ of meats. Organs: liver, heart, kidney, tongue, and the tripe and the brain, chortling and other innards. All these parts, inner parts of animals of beef, veal, lamb, pork, and some of calf, all these things. So these parts called as a internal organs. Internal organ contains a very limited quantities. That's why these called as offals. Offals also can be used for preparation of dishes. Mostly we use for the starter purposes. Basic beef cuts. Some of the cuts of beef: head, chunk, ribs, short line, rump, round, hind shank, short plate, flank, brisket. These are the cuts of beef. When you do not only the cuts of beef, you can same cuts you can apply for the lamb, sheep, goat, all this for purpose you can apply for the size is different, but the animals are different, whether it's a beef or a calf or pork or veal, anything. So the size is different and cuts will be the same. You can take the cuts size of the cuts also, it will varies. Cuts in a pork carcass. Pork, again, we have different types of cuts: head, spare rib, roast, blade, hand, loin, belly, leg, ham. Pork meat will be a different than the red meat. The pork meat will be a very tastier, and it is contains a very sweet taste. And the pork meat will be used in a French cuisine, charcuterie cuisine, and bacon, ham, sausages, frankies, the cold cuts, salamis. All this purpose we use the pork meats. Ham comes from the pork leg ham, which is going to be served in the breakfast, usually correct and smoked. Mostly smoked this method of cooking. Bacon is a smoked pork belly part. Bacon always taken from the your belly part of pork. Pork carcass basic cuts: head, picnic, jaw, blade roast, foreshank, hind shank, spare ribs, ham, shank, foot, picnic shoulder, side belly. These are the cuts of pork. Change in a meat, often death, after death, sorry. Muzzle is a plain soft and gel like sticky immediately after death. So the activity of cells will be stopped after death of animal. A few minutes, 1 hour, muscle shorten and become rigged and hard, inflexible, should not be cooked at the time. Immediately, it cannot be cooked. You need to rest after killing the animal. So the fibers or muscles or blood cells, everything is going to be relieved and tenderized after a few days. A gradually tenderization after freezing. This is the time to cook the meat. After few days, you just cut the meat, you rest the meat, you freeze the meat, and you use the meat. So then fibers, your tissues, your muscles, the blood cells will be the come out relieved and tenderized. It is good to cook. Market forms from the fresh meat. The meat immediately after slaughter without any undergoing chilling or freezing. Fresh meat means what we see in the market when you go to Sunday, the market, the people will kill the animal and immediately they dressed and they take out all your internal parts and they cut and they give the meat. So lamb or goat or sheep, so that is known as a fresh meat. But immediately cutting of the animal and eating is not good. We need to give this some rest and tenderizing of the tissues. So freshness, that is the fresh meat. Chilled meat. After killing the animal, cutting of the meats, and you're going to be refrigerated, and then you're cooking the meat. That is known as a chilling of the meat. That is will be -3 centigrade, so 24 hours after slaughtering. Slaughtering is a killing of the animal. We have two types of killing animal, that is a straight method, halal method, and a knocking method. Frozen meat. Meats cuts frozen to an internal temperature of 20 centigrades, -40 centigrades frozen temperature. When you going to frozen the meat in the deep freezers, it should be -40 centigrade of your temperature. Market farms meat, cured meat, and canned meat, and dried meat. Cured meat is some of spices or salting, sugars, spices, sodium, all these things when you cured and stored the meat. And the canning of canned meat, when you cook the meat and filling up into the cans, that is known as canned meat. Dried meat, with the drying of the meat, taking out the moisture and storing meats, that is known as a drying of the meat. Even in our the some rural areas also, they will store the meat with the salt and turmeric. They put it in the sunshine and the sun rays and dry up the meats. They store it. They make pickles. They make the curries. They make stews. They make roast. They make grilled, different purpose. So effect of cooking meats changes the in pigment. A myoglobin from the bright red color to grayish brown. So changing pigments while you're applying the heat. Of course, all tissues, pigments, myoglobin will changes in a chemical reaction. Change in a meat protein. The protein which is contains in the meat also changes, causing shrinkage. So when you roast or grill or cook, so the moisture will evaporate. The moisture will come release from the meat, and it will shrink. So that's why it is cooked. So tough and stringy and rubbery. So when you overcook, it will become fibers will become tough and stringy and rubbery. Fat melted, causing a shrinkage. So the blood cells, myoglobin cells contain some fat also. The when you cook, when you apply the heat, the fat is going to be a melt and the meat is going to be shrink. And heat convert collagen into a gelatin. So the tissues which contains the fat, that is converted into a gelatin. They require more heat. Those for making of the gelatin, it will require more high temperature. Long cooking develops the better flavor. Okay, when you cook the meat and all extraction of flavors come into the stews. So the long cooking is a better for the better flavor. Factors influencing flavor. Flavors is due to decomposition of the protein, oxidation of fat, and saltiness, sweetness of the blood. The distinctive flavor animal is affected by the species, sex, age, amount, exercise, a degree of ripening. So when you in factors, that is flavors, how you're going to cook it, the temperature, how are you applying, what is the method you're applying, the flavor is going to be changes. But all the meats, whether it's a white meat, brown meat, red meat, contains a very strong flavors. For controlling of the strong flavors, in a French cuisine, there is a simple way to controlling of the flavors: serving wines. Red wine goes with the red meats, white wine goes with the white wine, and white meat, red meat, and these flavors controlling marination, and lemon juice, tender spices, and oil, salt, pepper, herbs can be control of your strong flavors. The older animal, the stronger the flavor. So the older animal, the stronger flavor. More exercise animal have the tougher meats. So the strong flavors, old animals contain the strong, tough muscles. The more varied the feed, the more distinctive it is a flavor. So the flavor is going to be changes according to that the meat. 6 stages of doneness. So 6 stages are going to be apply the cooking temperature for the any meats, not any meats, but some of red meats mostly, and some of white meats also. So more, some of meat should be a well done, some of meat should be a medium well, some meat should be rare. So here in a Western countries in America, mostly they like rare. So very rare, rare, medium well, and well. These are the methods you apply while you're cooking the meat. Rare, very rare is a just the uh, tossing, okay, searing of meat. And rare, so surface of the food cooked, internal part is raw. Medium rare, and half cooked, half raw. And medium, 70% is cooked, 30% is a raw. Medium well, and medium well is a maximum is well done, but some extra juice will be applied in the medium well. Well done is a completely evaporated of moisture and everything is overcooked. That is known as well done. Storage of meats. Any storage of meat, you have to do refrigerators and deep freezers. When you're defreezing of the meats, you need to keep it in the refrigerator, thaw the meat. After thawing the meat, marinate the meat and cook the meats. Okay, so there is a different temperatures. Frozen temperature below 40 centigrade temperature, minus 40 centigrade temperature. Cold temperature below 4 centigrade temperature. Cooking temperatures are different, and the rare, medium rare, medium well, medium, and well done. So every temperature well done is always should be 175 centigrades, 165, 275 Fahrenheit, 260 Fahrenheit, and 250 Fahrenheit, and 240 Fahrenheit. Freezing temperatures, you can store the curds of the right temperature, you can store for at least 6 months also in the deep freezers. So principles of cooking. So the palatability quality increase the tenderness. Always this meat fibers to become a tenderness is the applying of the heat and applying of the method of cooking and tenderizing of marination of your meats. Elastin and collagen, these two things are the changes while you're cooking. So there are methods of tenderizing from tough meats to tender meats. A mechanical method: pounding, beating, slicing thinly, grounding, making the means pounding, so hammer, steak hammer, the pounding and mashing of your fibers and making the tenderizing. That is known as a mechanical methods. And marinating methods involve the soaking meat in a solution called as a marinade, which is a contains a acid such as a vinegar, lemon, uh, calamansi juice or a tomato juice that help the tenderizing of the meats. Apart from this, you can use spices, you can use herbs, you can use garlic, you can use oil, you can use red wine, you can use white wine for tenderizing of the meats. That is known as a marinating. During cooking, heat coagulate the proteins in the muscle fibers. So while you're cooking the meat, the coagulation of your fibers. So meats at a too high temperature for the too long will make a tough and dry. So don't cook too much. Everything moisture goes, everything juice goes, your fibers will become tough and very rubbery. Cooking meats too high temperatures, that's what I said. And meat cuts cooked in a liquid will fall apart and this is due to overcoagulation of protein. So meats cooking in the liquid, stewing or steaming or the boiling, so your coagulation of protein will changes and your fibers will get harder. Poultry, so white meat comes under poultry. These are the chicken cuts. When you cut the chicken for Indian curry cut, there is 16 to 18 pieces from one bird. 8 pieces this side, 9 pieces this side, 9 pieces this side. That is known as a curry cut. The pieces of curry cut. Biryani cut, 2 pieces and 2 pieces. 4 pieces will cut for the chicken. So apart from that, your chicken tenders, chicken wings, fried chicken, crispy chicken, chicken manchuria, boneless, tangri kebab, chicken tikka, malai tikka, so many varieties are there. So for all these varieties, we need a different cut. So for that, and some of the chicken cuts are given here. Those are drum tea, neck, wings, and wing tips, and breast fillet, and without skin, and inner fillet, supreme, and thigh, drumstick, leg quarter with backbone, and whole leg, and breast, skin on bone in. So these all are cuts of chicken. Apart from this, curry cut will be there, and boneless cut will be there, and chicken breast cut will be there, supreme cut will be there, tangdi cut will be there, biryani cut will be there. So many cuts will be there. So that is all cuts you can utilizing of making different types of preparations. According to the preparation, you will use of your cut. So not only the poultry, any meat, whether it's a red meat, brown meat, or white meat, according to the preparation, we need to cut the meat. So French classical cuts, everything, as I said, it is the beef or veal or pork or lamb or sheep or goat. According to the French cuts, we need to make it in a French cuisine. For Indian cuts, we have only the curry cut, the small pieces with the bone, without bone, boneless, keema, mince. These are the basic cuts we have for the meats. I hope you understand, guys, about the meat cookery. The meat cookery is a very, very important cookery. That is how you apply the heat and cooking the meats. That is according to every region, every religion, every place is a different. America people like a rare, European people like a medium, Indian people like a well done, Asian people like a well done. It's a depend on region, that is where the meats are going to be utilized. So mostly as per our the subject, food production subject for the hotel management, we learn international cookings. That's why all this beef, veal, calf, and pork, and lamb, chicken, seafood, and fish, all this mentioned. Okay, so in India, as per our religion concern, we don't eat any beef. Thank you very much. I hope you understand.